Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can you hear me back there okay? Sounds great. Thank you and welcome to Kettering Fairmont High School. My name is Chris Weaver, Athletic Director. It is with great honor and privilege to welcome you to the 22nd Annual Fairmont Athletic Hall of Fame induction ceremony. What a great evening last night was, with a very special recognition of our Hall of Fame inductees at halftime of the basketball game. Our Firebird boys basketball team sure battled hard last night, eventually falling to a very talented Beaver Creek team. Today, we bestow the highest honor a former Dragon, Falcon, and Firebird can earn. These individuals made tremendous sacrifices and commitments to our athletic programs and set the standard for our current and future Firebird coaches, athletes, as well as the Kettering community. I would like to thank our Hall of Fame selection committee, who spends countless hours gathering information on nominees. Each year I look forward to working with our committee as we review, discuss, and eventually select our next class of Hall of Fame inductees. This committee takes the responsibility of this selection process very seriously, and their commitment is a big part of what makes Fairmont Athletic Hall of Fame so special. Coaches of the past and present will always hold a special place in our hearts. Without their mentorship and guidance, many of us would not be where we are today. We have many who make it a point to come back each year and celebrate this wonderful day, and I want to thank you for your commitment to the Fairmont Athletic Hall of Fame. Additionally, without the support and financial commitment from the Fairmont Athletic Boosters, this day would not be possible. Our president, Mr. Lee Hilty, and the executive committee offers tremendous amount of support to our parents, coaches, and athletes and community. Thank you for your time and commitment to the Firebirds. If you are not already an Athletic Booster member, please consider picking up a brochure in the lobby on your way out today for more information on how you can support the Boosters. Additionally, there's information in your program as well towards the back if you'd like to read about that as well. And before I turn things over to Mr. Alexander, I wanted to take a couple minutes to share with you about an ongoing project the athletic department has been working on over the past several years. Without question, the athletic history in our past runs very, very deep. And it's filled with tremendous accomplishments, some of which we will hear and celebrate today. The goal has been to bring these stories to your fingertips at any place, at any time, and I'm happy these stories have finally accomplished this. The Fairmont Pride Wall, which some of you might have had the opportunity to see last evening over at Trent Arena, is physically located on the side wall and is an interactive display showcasing the accomplishments of our Fairmont athletes past and present. The added feature, and the one that I enjoy the most, is that all of this can now also be accessed online by going to our athletic department website, firebirdathletics.com. You'll find a Hall of Fame section tab underneath the More tab. By going there, you can select that and view the awesome accomplishments of all of our Hall of Fame inductees, as well as the current school record holders and some of the commitments that our student athletes continue to make on a yearly basis. The evolution of sports and social media continues to advance at lightning speed. And we believe by bringing the Fairmont Pride Wall online, it will help us connect, share, and celebrate our history. So on behalf of the Fairmont Athletic Department, we hope you enjoy the ceremony today. At this time, I'd like to introduce the principal of Kettering Fairmont High School, Mr. Tyler Alexander.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining us today for this great event to recognize some of the top athletes to ever walk the halls of a Fairmont high school. The history and success of our student athletes is a huge reason Fairmont is recognized across the state of Ohio as a destination place to get a great education and to compete at the highest level athletically. It takes great leadership, hard work, and dedication to run a district that takes pride in educating and creating opportunities for every student that walks through our doors. This leadership starts at the top, and I would like to recognize these folks this afternoon. First, Mr. Scott Inskeep, our superintendent. He is in the back. Our board members, Mr. Jim Ambrose, who is the president of the Board of Education. Mrs. Jennifer Kane, a board member. She is also in the back. And also board members, Vice President Toby Henderson, Ms. Julie Gilmore, and Mrs. Lori Parks. Let's give them a round of applause as well. Also present today is my West Unit principal here at Fairmont High School, Mrs. Jenny Britton. Thank you to all of you for being here today for this special ceremony. New inductees, congratulations on being enshrined into a group of student athletes that have helped mold Fairmont High School to what it is today, and a group that takes pride in being a Firebird, Dragon, or Falcon. Thank you for all you have done for the Kettering City School District, Fairmont East, Fairmont West, and Kettering Fairmont High School. At this time, I would like to introduce Hall of Fame committee member, Mr. Jim Seawee.
Thank you, Tyler. Today, we mourn the passing of two titans of the Fairmont Athletic Hall of Fame. Jim Trent was a significant driving force behind the Hall of Fame in its infancy. He was a charter member of the selection committee and served loyally for 17 years. He secured significant funding for the Hall of Fame display that you see in the Trent Arena. He introduced an objective and trusted voting process that we use to this day that higher education consultants recommended in personnel selection and management decision-making. He was the funny and entertaining MC of the first three induction ceremonies, 1999, 2000, and 2001. Of the 161 members, Jim inducted 63 of them. He was a model of fairness and refused to allow any personal bias or preference to enter into the Hall of Fame. Decisions he made, big or small. His example has been followed by our committee for 22 years. Thank you, Jim, for your lasting positive imprint you left on the Fairmont Athletic Hall of Fame. We lost a great coach, Coach Nancy Benedum, was a charter member inducted in 2000. She taught and coached at Fairmont and Fairmont East and was an assistant athletic director at East and Kettering. She coached basketball, tennis, and volleyball, and her 7 of her volleyball teams had perfect records, and 1 of her basketball teams was perfect. 4 of those teams in volleyball were district champions. She was Western Ohio Coach of the Year 4 times. She was also so respected and admired that the Nancy Benedum Award was established in 1987 in her honor. It is given annually to the female athlete that exhibits characteristics valued so highly by Coach Benedum: sportsmanship, enthusiasm, dedication, and leadership. Nancy dedicated her entire professional career to teaching, coaching, and athletic administration. In competition, her athletes were often champions, but more importantly, all of her athletes learned the lessons of championship living. God bless you, Nancy. God bless you, Jim. This Hall of Fame is a wonderful achievement by so many people. I'd just like to refer you to the inside page. You see the individuals, the companies that help us in this process. I want to name a few of them. They're not all here. Dan Appolito at Archers, Carrie Basson at Kettering Connections helps us out tremendously. Our Board of Education is fantastic. Thank you for being here. The selection committee does an outstanding job, along with the athletic department. We really appreciate the support that we get from the athletic department. Kettering Schools, Scott, thank you for coming and supporting what we do. Thanks so much to Scott Leo and the students who help out in this video conferencing. Aaron Moffat at La Rosa's Pizza. We thank Life Touch Photography with the professional pictures that are done. Charlie Shearholtz. This beautiful program has been donated for 22 years. It's worth thousands of dollars, and it's really the envy of a lot of other Hall of Fames. And Charlie does this every year, along with Ann Walmsley over there. I want to thank Kathy Seawee for her help. She is the main cake cutter, so treat her good. If you want a big piece, you got to make sure you take care of her. Diana Roberts is on our committee. I don't know where Diana is, but there she is. Diana, Hills and Dales Florist, provides all the nice flowers that we have. Thank you, Diana. We appreciate all that. And Dave Nogle's not here, but he does so much behind the scenes. So in general, though, our boosters, I can't say enough about them. Other Athletic Hall of Fames, I was invited to one the other day. It cost $60 to go there. It was a nice dinner and everything like that. Everything is free. This is free and open to the public, and it's because of the tremendous, tremendous support of our boosters over 22 years. So we thank you for that. And I apologize if I did miss anyone. I did not intend to. The great part of my program right now is to introduce those Hall of Fame members who have come back. We continue to celebrate if they were a charter member and were inducted 20 years ago, or they were inducted last year or this year. They play for the greatest team, what we like to refer to as the greatest Fairmont team ever assembled. And I'd like to recognize them now. From Kettering, Fairmont, 2001, Bill Lauder. Please stand and hold your applause until everyone is standing. There's Bill in the back. Andy Arockery, Kettering, 1996, Kettering in the back. Todd Rich, Kettering, 1990. Todd. Coach Wendy Devine, Fairmont West, Kettering, 1982 to 1986. Tom Bell, Fairmont East, 1980. Terry Bell, Fairmont East, 1980. Peanut Byrnes, Fairmont West, 1979. Betty Gohegan, Fairmont West, 1979. Nan Heed, Fairmont West, 1979. That was a heck of a year. Brenda Zimmer, Fairmont East, 1978. Coach Rusty Clifford, Fairmont West, Fairmont East, Kettering, 1973 to 1990. He's in the back. Tim Ireland, Fairmont West. He's around here somewhere. He's hiding. He's back there. Come on. Come on. Come on. Here we go. Okay. Tim Ireland, 1971 Fairmont. Nick Becker, Fairmont West, 1970. Coach Fran Eden, Fairmont West, Kettering, 1967 to 2005. Phil Baker, Fairmont West, 1967. Gene Baker, Fairmont West, 1967. Let's have a great round of applause for these Hall of Famers. We got three more I haven't forgotten about. If you go into your program and you look at the pages there, there's 2 pages on a young lady named Marilyn McLarty, and there's 2 pages on a young man named Harry Kieffer. If you look at the front of this program, this is the school they went to. I'd like to say a few words about them and bring them out. They're 2 esteemed veterans, and they have never missed one of these induction ceremonies since being inducted in the year 2000. They hold lofty positions of respect and admiration. They embody the spirit of Fairmont pride and tradition. Marilyn is here with her daughter, Patty Norris, and Harry is joined by his Hall of Fame son, Scott. Let's welcome the Kieffers and the Norrises. I want Brenda Zimmer to please stand again. Where are you, Brenda? Brenda put this article together with the help of the families. Brenda, you did a tremendous job. Thank you so much. From her home on Lenox Drive, just across the way, she could clearly see Fairmont through the open fields. She graduated in 1948, a three-star sports star, earning 12 letters, which would have put her on the Dare to Soar wall in our current situation over at the athletic department. In field hockey, her team beat the University of Dayton, Cincinnati, and Wittenberg. Today, she will see and greet Coach Sinkhorn, who carried on the field hockey tradition of excellence Maryland established 2 decades before. Maryland will welcome also tennis champion Beth Payton. Both were junior Whiteman Cup team members. She is half of the only husband and wife team ever voted into the Athletic Hall of Fame. Her husband, late husband, Leland Jr. Norris, 1947, was also in the charter class. And next to her is Harry Kieffer. He remembers his family getting milk from a farmhouse near Prass Elementary School. He excelled in 4 sports, 7 letters. Football was his favorite. As the leading scorer, he recalls the Dragons' 7-6 win over the powerhouse Chaminade after losing to them the year before by 30. He played in the North-South All-Star game in Akron. Legendary Hall of Fame coach Chet Roush once said, Harry Kieffer would be at the top of my all-time great list. High praise from Caesar. Everybody knows what Coach Roush was about. Harry was the prom king, and the queen was his beautiful future wife, Linda Meixner. The only father, daughter, Monica could not be here, son team in the Hall of Fame, is named Kieffer. At this point in time, we have 2 great athletes, 2 great families. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm thank you to the honorary co-captains of the greatest team in history, Marilyn McLarty Norris and Harry Kieffer. It's now my honor to introduce our MC. He doesn't need an introduction. He's been with the Kettering Schools for a very long time, now with the city. He's on our Hall of Fame selection committee. His son is in the Athletic Hall of Fame, Bill Lauder. Bill?
Thank you, Jim. That's a tough act to follow. Well, I'd like to formally welcome you to the 2020 Fairmont High School Athletic Hall of Fame induction ceremony. We appreciate, as you've heard several times, that you've taken the time out of your busy days to join us with this celebration of the best of the Fairmonts that they've had to offer in the world of sports, and especially with the snow. We're glad you're here. Why and how does one get to this level of accomplishment and recognition? If there was one way, and we knew the formula, every school and every coach in the country would be beating on our door to try to figure out what that was. We would be in great demand. But we all know the variables, I think. Size, strength, speed, quickness. What about desire? What about intensity? What about competitiveness? And how about smart? How about coachability? I think our coaches would say that. And what about great coaching? That's needed also. And then what about the lucky combination of talented teammates? Folks, there has to be a blocker to score a touchdown. Harry would tell you that. There has to be a pick before the roll in basketball. You can't do it all by yourself. And to the parents that are here, don't forget the families. It doesn't happen accidentally. Late meals, travel, nowadays camps, and all the other supportive family measures that have taken place. If you look at all the past inductees and you look at the new inductees today, they have many, if not all, of the characteristics, traits, and circumstances that I mentioned. But, and this is important, in every recipient, past and the ones we're going to meet today, deep down inside, there is that burning desire to be best, and these individuals welcomed the pressure and they lived for competition. The Hall of Fame Selection Committee, as you've heard, has been at work for 22 years trying to find Fairmont's elite athletes. We ask you to please think back to the athletes you have considered to be great, and I'm sure they have the characteristics that I just mentioned. Although our committee members span many decades, we're all pretty old, we don't want to miss considering a worthy candidate. So as a committee, we need your help. We need you to help us and nominate these athletes that you feel are worthy. There are nomination forms online at the Kettering School website, and we also have paper copies out in the lobby. So please pick one up, or please go online to nominate those individuals you think would be worthy of this recognition. This is important to know, though. Please note that once you nominate somebody, his or her name remains in the committee's consideration pool forever or until they're selected. You do not have to re-nominate someone every year, and it doesn't give them any extra weight if you re-nominate them every single year. Now, what does it take to be eligible for consideration? First of all, you have to have been an athlete, obviously, who graduated from one of the Fairmont high schools. Fairmont, Fairmont West, Fairmont East, or the current Kettering Fairmont. You need to have lettered in one sport for at least 2 years, or 2 or more sports for 1 year. And you have to have graduated at least 10 years prior to being considered for induction into this Hall of Fame. We also accept specialists. We consider those coaches, administrators, or support personnel behind the scenes who have served at least 5 years, and they must have been retired from that role for at least 5 years. You've heard some of this, I won't belabor it. Some interesting facts about our Hall of Fame members can be found in your programs on page 2. So if you get a chance to peruse that, please do. Starting with 28 members in the class 1999, we will now have, when this program is over, 161 inductees into the Hall of Fame, spanning 86 years. And there is good representation of all the Fairmonts, and there is good representation between both male and female athletes. Along with those before them, these individuals have laid the foundation on which our excellent athletic program is built. They've set an outstanding example for today's athletes and the potential Hall of Fame members of the future. Last night, our inductees received nice plaques commemorating their accomplishments, and today, in addition to the recognition, they are going to receive a proclamation from the City of Kettering, from the Kettering City Council. The Hall of Fame class of 2020 will be the 22nd class to be inducted. This particular class will include 4 athletes, 2 female, 2 male, and 1 coach who is a female. And they are going to be inductees number 157 through numbers 161. Let's start the induction process. First up today will be inductee number 157, Gary Byrnes, Fairmont West class of 1967. He's going to join Phil Baker, Gene Baker, and Tom Worthington from that same 1967 class, and he is going to be presented today by Phil Baker, who you met earlier, on the Hall of Fame committee and also a Hall of Fame member. Phil?
Thanks, Bill. Let me offer a warm welcome to everybody for being here. Thanks for spending your Saturday afternoon as we honor the finest athletes in Fairmont, Kettering Fairmont's history. I hope that for all you new members of the Hall of Fame that this provides a great weekend for you, many memories, life-lasting memories. It was great to see Kenny and Joanne and Beth, to meet you after hearing all your accomplishments over the many months that we research all this. And for Marty and Mark, Mark, my classmate, and Marty, someone that grew up in my neighborhood. It's good to see you again after all these years. It's my great pleasure to introduce and accept the award for Gary Byrnes, my classmate, my teammate, Fairmont West, 1967. Obviously, Gary was a great athlete, hard-working, hard-nosed, a blue-collar kind of guy. He played with great grit and determination. In fact, that's what he played. He played for 3 seasons, for 3 years at Fairmont High School. He was never out of season, and that includes the summer where he played for H&H Machine in Toole, which was a summer league that was sponsored by the high school at that time. My first encounter with Gary was when we played for the Fairmont Wee Dragons. Some of you older people might remember the Wee Dragons. And Gary was the quarterback, and Gary was the star, and we all knew it. We did that for a couple years, and then Gary went to Van Buren, where he played 3 sports once again, football, basketball, and baseball, and excelled at all of them. And for those of us who went to D.L. Barnes Junior High, we always wanted to beat Van Buren because they were our biggest rival. And we rarely did because of one guy, Gary Byrnes. He was a stud. He was a star. He was the man. If you really, in those days, you wanted to beat Van Buren, you had to stop Byrnes. And like I said, we rarely did. But then in the fall of '64, we were all reunited, and we were so glad that we were on Gary's team, which it was. And let me just briefly run over some of Gary's accomplishments. In football, he earned 2 letters. His teammates, we elected him captain of the football team. He was the quarterback of our team. He was an All-Western Ohio League selection as a senior. The coaches honored him as the best offensive back his senior year. He led our team in total team offense with a total of 848 total yards. And Coach Hildreth, upon his selection as a WL All-League player, says Byrnes' leadership was responsible for our success this year, and I would certainly echo that. In basketball, he was captain of the basketball team as well, all WL selection, and most improved player on that team. And the KO Times, which many of you would remember, was a local newspaper. He was on the all-area team as well. In baseball, Gary was a member of the 1966 state championship game, or state championship team. He was a pitcher and a utility player. As a senior, he was elected captain for the 3rd time as a senior. All-Western Ohio League selection for the 3rd time. Most valuable player on that baseball team. And that quite an accomplishment for one guy. He was never out of season, and he wore that purple and white Dragon jersey with such great pride. Not only during the school year, but like I said, in the summer as well. I got a call this morning from Mickey Morgan. He says, I got a great Byrnes story for you. He said, I was 25 years old, first-year teacher at Fairmont, coaching basketball, and some of you remember we used to have lighted courts out here where Trent Arena's located. He said, there we are, it's September, middle of football season. I go out there to play with all these young guys, and, there's Gary Byrnes, middle of football season, out there on the courts one evening, sweating and playing. He says, boy, Coach Hildreth, he laid into me. How could you do that? What if he turns an ankle? But this was Gary, man. He just wanted to play. He wanted to play. That's what he wanted to do. And the other memory that I can share with you is that in football, we'd begin our summer workouts sometime after the 4th of July. And you know, we did running and agility drills and that kind of stuff. Gary would show up one of two ways. He'd show up in his baseball uniform, either coming from a game that he'd played or on his way to a night game, or maybe even between the doubleheader, I'm not sure. Or he would come, in those days, guys played basketball all day down at Wonderly Park, and he would come in and do our workouts. And then most of us, we'd go down to Parkmore, down to Sandy's, and have a cold drink and tell each other how good we were. But not Gary. He would go out there to those lighted courts and play basketball till who knows what time of the night. You know, that was his thing. You know, and as I said, a gifted athlete. In a Wayne game, this was our senior year, late in the year. Gary was a quarterback. I probably had his best game of his career. He was 11 for 19 passing, threw for 246 yards and 4 touchdowns, and additionally rushed for 45 yards for a total offense in that game of nearly 300 yards. After high school, Gary briefly, and he laughs about this, he said, briefly is the right word to use. He said, briefly, I attended Ohio University, and as he said, that didn't quite work as well as I thought it would. Gary served the United States Marine Corps, was a combat veteran in Vietnam, and came back after that, went to Wright State a little bit, and decided he wasn't quite through with his athletic career yet. Took up tennis, being the gifted athlete that he was. Took up tennis, became pretty good at it. Left and went to Arizona, was a teaching professional in Arizona, in Vermont, in Chicago. And I think that pretty much sums up that Gary was just a gifted athlete, could do just about anything. Somebody asked me last night, well, you think he could have excelled in tennis in high school? Well, absolutely. I think he could have excelled in just about any athletic endeavor he wanted to. And that was Gary. So let me just say thanks, everybody. And Gary couldn't be here this weekend. And seeing the weather, he lives in Arizona, seeing the weather, I think he probably made a pretty good choice. So thanks, everybody, for being here. And it's my great honor to present and accept Gary Byrnes. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Our second inductee tonight will be inductee number 158, Marty Hart. When she was here, Marty Hart Sinkhorn. She will be the 21st coach in the Hall of Fame, and also happens to be a 1968 Fairmont West graduate and an outstanding athlete in her own right. And she is going to be presented by Kim Sinkhorn, and that is Marty's sister-in-law. Come on up.
I'm a hands-on person, so I have to have kind of props to do my speech. So give me a second. Thank you for that nice introduction, and I have to say this is a wonderful event. Thank you so much for the Hall of Fame committee for doing this. I've known Marty since I was 7. She started dating my brother in high school, and I got a wonderful opportunity as one of my first gifts for Christmas was this field hockey stick. So I started, she was my coach way young. And this is the same kind of stick she played, probably was a little bit longer, that we played at that era. Field hockey at this school, though, has a long tradition, as you heard before. It is amazing when I look back to see how long it had been played here. It started in the late 30s, and in the 40s, as you heard, they were playing college teams. By the mid-50s to 65, they were undefeated 8 straight years. And at 65, Marty came to play here with a stick very similar to this. It was a little different sport then. They didn't wear mouth guards, didn't wear shin guards. And Marty has a couple stories of injuries because of that. Marty went on from here and played at Ohio State when she left. And in 1975, she came back as the assistant coach for the field hockey team. Sticks had changed a little bit by then. This is my stick from high school. Because yes, I was in high school then, and I was playing field hockey. Marty came back as an assistant in 1975. And in 1976, my senior year, she took over as the head coach. I remember it well. Things were changing really fast for women back then. Title IX had broken about 2 or 3 years ago. In 75, we were still under GAA. And in 76, we were getting to learn varsity letters. I can remember that as an exciting time. And if you know Marty, she's a competitor in everything she does. It doesn't matter if it's cards. It doesn't matter what it is. She's a competitor. And Marty understood the skill work of being in better shape than our opponents. She brought back what she had learned at Ohio State and applied it to our teams. And I knew at that time we could outrun any team in the area. We were in shape. I knew that strategy was changing and we were on the leading edge of it. And not only did she help us physically and mentally to be better prepared, but she continued some of the neat traditions we had. I'm wearing one of the locker tags that she helped make us that year. I still have them because we still did those kind of things. We were a unit. We were a family. That's what sports were back then. At that time, I don't know if some of you remember, we were still feeding the opponents at halftime and at the end of the game. Okay? I mean, who would think about doing that now? Giving them a meal. Marty, in the fall of 76, became the head coach. We still played where we were just playing every team we could. And then finally in 78, the High School Coaches Association got together and formed a state championship because Ohio High School hadn't picked us up yet. And I got to tell you, I give it to Kettering. They gave the field, they ran the tournament, they did everything. The Kettering school stepped up big. I think they understood field hockey was one of our best sports, and they came through. Finally, in 79, Oakford came through and made a championship. Fairmont West won. And in 1980, again, Kettering was on the front stage. They ended up playing East versus West was the final that year in the state championship. That is amazing. It was an awfully neat time. Marty coached in 81. Oakwood knocked him out of the state tournament. But that spring, Marty gave birth to her next coaching job, Emily, and a job switch took her to Columbus. This stick I hold is Emily's stick from college. She ended up playing at Duke University, and in 2003 were national runner-ups. So I think she did a pretty good job at that next coaching job, too. Things change, and I could be here and give you Marty, but there's part of me that has to give my love song out to Fairmont. I cannot believe what you did for women's sports back at that time. 10 years, 20 years later, I went to school, was so far behind us, where we were in 77, I couldn't believe it. And here's some interesting facts, especially in field hockey. In the first 12 years, they had a state championship. A Fairmont team was in the Final Four, 11 of them, and they won 7 of them. That's unheard of. There's only 2 other teams in the history of field hockey in this state that have done that. Columbus Academy has 12, and Thomas Worthington has 6. An interesting thing, the Thomas Worthington, first state championship they had, the coach was a Fairmont state champion and an OSU field hockey alumni, Kim Willis. And 2 of the Columbus Academy state champions had a young player named Emily Sink on them. It all comes back around. You know what's even more interesting? In the first 5 years that there were state championships for women's sports, Fairmont had 5 state championships, 2 in volleyball, 2 in field hockey, and 1 in tennis. That's amazing. If you look at the stats when it goes out, it keeps getting better. I contribute that to one major factor, to strong physical education and teachers and women coaches of that period, especially at the break of Title IX here in Fairmont. There was such great people here, names like Mott, Benedum, Roush, Schwab, Dietz, Olix, Eden, and Sinkhorn. My last stick that I wanted to bring and show you how much has changed. This is a present-day high state field hockey stick. Wow, logoed, everything. And it's not even made of wood, it's carbon. It's lighter than anything. The sport has gone a long way. And I want to bring it back around. The years I played at Ohio State, I cannot tell you how many Fairmont East and Fairmont West athletes I ran into. Yard at Bowling Green. I ran into them all over the place. We were the team to be recruiting from in this area. And right now, there are 5 former players now on college rosters, right now from Fairmont. Marty and I are both so proud to have played at a school district like Kettering and what you did for us and what you gave to women athletes when it wasn't mandatory by law. Before Title IX broke, they were giving us chances. That is awesome. And I now present to you my first and my most influential coach, Marty Sink. Being inducted into the Fairmont Athletic Hall of Fame is a great honor to me and to my family. My parents moved to Kettering, I'm going to cry, when my father was transferred to Mound Laboratory in Miamisburg. My parents specifically purchased a house in Kettering so that their children could attend Kettering schools. My mother was a teacher at Southdale Elementary for 20 years. My oldest brother, Jim, was the brains of the family. My brother, John, was the football star in Mr. Cool on campus. And my sister, Nancy, was a social people person who loved to play field hockey. One of my best memories is lying in bed, listening to my sister talk about the fun time she had in school and about her practices and field hockey games. I could not wait to get to high school to learn how to play this marvelous game of field hockey. I think I was born to be a competitor. Being the youngest in the family, I wanted to be as good as my siblings and to find my special talent. Even walking home from Southern Hills Elementary, I would try to make a personal best in time. I tried to beat that time every single day when I was coming home from school. A fun memory from elementary school also was when Mr. Hoppy, our phys ed teacher, created a battle of the sexes with Doug Sherman, the fastest male runner, and myself in a foot race after school. After 60 years, I'm still proud of myself of being the fastest runner in the school. Joining the Dayton Dolphins swim team helped me channel my competitive spirit and develop my drive to be the best that I could be. Finally, I got to high school and made the varsity field hockey team and met a senior teammate, Jerry Vanover, who took me under her wing and tutored me. I realized the true love of the sport and friendships gained through teamwork and trust. It was not until I entered Ohio State and played field hockey that I realized how progressive Kettering schools were in both academics and athletics. The opportunities for a female to participate in sports in Kettering was far ahead of most schools in the country at that time in history. Many thanks go to Superintendent Chester Roush's leadership, the inspiration of the teaching staff, and the dedication of the athletic coaches. But the best part of attending Kettering schools was meeting the love of my life for almost 50 years, my husband, Mark. In 1974, Mark and I moved back to Kettering after Mark completed law school, and I was thrilled to be hired at Fairmont West, thank you, Mr. Wagner, as the home economics teacher in East Unit. One day, Linda Dietz appeared in my classroom and asked me if I would be interested in being her assistant coach. Me? Coaching? I didn't major in physical education, but I could pass on my competitive spirit and the love of field hockey, and that if you were in good enough condition, you could outlast any team. Coaching added an entirely new chapter in my career. Working with these young women and witnessing their enthusiasm, developing their skills, and seeing the passion for field hockey was a mountaintop experience for me. When I started coaching in 1975, Title IX had not been implemented. 1978, the Ohio High School Field Hockey Coaches Association created an unofficial state field hockey tournament held at Fairmont East. The best teams in Ohio were invited to participate, and in the semifinals, Fairmont West played Fairmont East. Fairmont East certainly did not have the home field advantage because Kettering had a monsoon rain event the night before, leaving the football field with at least 4 inches of mud. Literally, the ball had to be progressed by scooping it out of the muck down the field. And we won the first unofficial state field hockey championship, beating Shaker Heights in the finals. This win demonstrated the team's ability to adjust to adverse conditions and to keep their focus on winning.
1979, the first OHSAA-sponsored Ohio State Field Hockey Tournament was held at Ohio Wesleyan University. Undefeated Fairmont West defeated Columbus School for Girls in the semifinals. For the early state championships, both semifinals and finals were played in the same day with lunch in between. We happened to eat in the same restaurant as Shaker Heights, our final opponent. Several of my players informed me that the Shaker Heights girls were smoking in the back of the restaurant. And I said to them, use your conditioning. You've got this. We can outlast them. So Fairmont West players were able to outlast their opponents in overtime to win the first state title. There's something special about winning the first title with such special girls on my team. In 1980, Fairmont West defeated Columbus School for Girls in the semifinals. Fairmont East beat Hudson, setting up the finals as a crosstown rivalry. In regular season, East had beaten West, so the finals were for all the marbles. WHIO television station announced that if Fairmont East and Fairmont West made it to the finals, the station would send their helicopter to cover the game. How exciting to have our local news station send a helicopter to a female field hockey game. The sports was starting to be recognized and finally gaining equal footing with male sports. In the finals, Fairmont West retained the state championship title. This 1980 team still holds records after 39 years. They are tied for the most goals scored in a state tournament. They also remain tied for second for the most goals scored in a period, and Betsy Britt still is tied for the most goals, 3, scored in a state final by an individual player. An unexpected reward of coaching was working with my assistant coaches, Joan Pelton, Annie Frick, and Lana Hollowell Rankin. Lana and I were high school classmates, and later we shared motherhood with similar-aged babies. Annie Frick remains my best friend for 41 years. We are there for each other during the good and the bad times. Field hockey has been a family affair for me, starting with my sister, known as the Tank, on the field. In my first year as an assistant coach, my sister-in-law, Kim, played on the varsity team, and then the next year, I coached her as a senior. I coached my sister's daughter, Laura Akersfield, as she contributed to the 1979 first state championship title. Laura's mother had to be smiling in heaven on that special day. With my new baby and my husband work transfer to Columbus, my coaching days were over. When our daughter Emily reached high school at Columbus Academy, she continued the family tradition and played field hockey, winning 2 state championships and 1 runner-up. Emily was a high school All-American in field hockey and lacrosse and played on the under-19 national team before heading to Duke to play field hockey in college. Field hockey has been truly a family affair for me. I want to thank Kettering Schools for the wonderful opportunities you gave me growing up as a child and as an adult. Thanks to the many coaches and teachers who inspired me: Penny Mott, Fran Eden, Diana Schwab, Barbara Rausch, and Wendy Devine. Many thanks to the energetic, determined, talented young women who gave their hearts to field hockey and to Fairmont West. So many of these young women played field hockey at the collegiate level. Kim, my sister-in-law, coached at several Columbus schools and at Ohio State. Kim Willis coached at Thomas Worthington and won the 1988 state title. And Christine Eby coached at Fairmont West, winning 2 state titles in 1989 and 1990. I hope that my players found the joy of competitive athletics, made long-lasting friends and memories, and felt the pride of being the best that they could be. My players were the Title IX pioneers for women's athletics of today. With all my heart, I want to thank the Fairmont Athletic Hall of Fame for this honor. Congratulations to the members of the committee for such a professional organization. Congratulations to the past recipients, and thanks to my family and friends for supporting me.
Ladies, great job. I don't know about the rest of you, but the historical chronicling of those early years, for me personally, was kind of goosebumpy. You did a great job. A couple updates. We missed Mike Dunn, member of the Fairmont Athletic Hall of Fame, Fairmont East, 1982. Mike, would you stand? We also would like to thank Mr. John Devine, a volunteer who does all the photography. John, thank you very much. Peanut, what high school did you go to? That's what I thought. Our next inductee, number 159, is Joanne Reese, Kettering Fairmont. Joanne is the first member from the class of 1991, and she is going to be presented by her track coach, Mr. Bob Carl. Come on up, please.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations to the other inductees, especially Marty, who happened to have been my wife's coach in 1979. She was very proud of being on that particular team. I'm going to read a quote to you that appeared in the Firebird Yearbook in 1990. It says, "You never know what you're capable of until you do it. And when you run well, it's about the best feeling in the world." That quote was written by Joanne Reese, and it pretty much sums up her career as a student and as an athlete in Kettering Fairmont. She proved herself more than capable a lot of times as an athlete and a student. I mean, after all, when you're a 4-point student, it's hard to get a whole lot better. And every so often as a coach, you're blessed with an athlete who has great talent and a great work ethic, and great personal qualities that kind of sets them apart from other great performers as well. This is a person who uses their outstanding individual talents for the good of the team. Well, Joanne was such a person and such an athlete. She's one of the finest track and field athletes, boy or girl, in the history of Kettering schools. I talked to several of her former teammates in the week leading up to the induction here, and they remembered her as an outstanding teammate, a great captain. She was really friendly to all of us, very humble, a really determined runner, and I might also add a very relentless runner. She helped lead her teams to great success at all levels of competition. And Joanne set the school record in the 400-meter dash at the original track meet in 1991. That was 29 years ago. Her record of 56:53 still stands. And as of 2005, the last year I could get some records for, she was still a top 10 performer in the 200-meter dash and the long jump. Joanna made impressions on people very early. As a freshman, she impressed her teammates. Particularly, we had two throwers, Kara Byrnes and Barb Cashtaller, who were performing their event at one end of the track. And Joanne went running by, leading the event that she was running in by considerable distance. And Barb turned to Kara and said, "You know, she's really fast for a freshman." And she was. She managed to impress our opponents as well. We went to Hudson High School, my old high school, to run Hudson and Stowe in a tri-meet over spring break. And the Hudson coach had told me before the race, he said, "You know, my girl and the girl from Stowe, we have the two fastest times in Summit County in the 400-meter dash this year." I said, "Well, we have a girl who's pretty good too." The last 100 yards of the race, as Joanna is leading the race by 10 meters, one of the Hudson girls who was leaning on the fence next to me turned to me and said, "Your girl's really good. I'll bet she could go to state. Well, Joanne went to state 3 times. She was 7th twice, 4th once. If she had been running under the award system that they have at the OHSA today, she would have been a 3-time All-Ohio runner. As it was, she was All-Ohio 1 time for her 4th place finish. But despite her individual accomplishments, it's the relay events that really made Joanne stand out. One of our former rival coaches told me one time, regretfully, you put a baton in her hand and there isn't any lead that's safe from her, is there? I said, yeah, not really. I think perhaps the best example of that happened at Fairmont when she was a junior. We were running the 4x200 meter relay. And I had not loaded up the relay team that day, but we had 3 other ladies who had performed pretty well. But when Joanne got the baton to anchor the team, she was in 4th place. The leader from Fairmont was probably, I would say, a good 15, 20 yards ahead of her. And she was running along very casually, enjoying the roar of the crowd. As she was in the middle of the turn, she took a quick look over her shoulder and was kind of dismayed to see that Joanne had passed the girl in 3rd place, 2nd place, and was now bearing down on her. As they entered the straightaway, at the head of the straightaway, the Fairmont kid took one more look over her shoulder, and here came Joanne with a long stride and the head bob that was characteristic of her as she ran. And the girl from Fairmont is now running for her life down the straightaway. She tried very hard, but unfortunately for her, Joanne caught her with 5 meters to go in the race, anchored our team to a win that day. One of the great efforts and showed the great determination that she had. Joanne did not run in college. She received several letters, several offers of scholarships, but Joanne had already made plans for after high school. In talking with her junior year, she said, you know, I'm going to go to the University of Dayton. I'm going to get an engineering degree. Well, that plan she successfully carried out. She showed the same determination and the same effort that marked her efforts as a student and an athlete here at Kettering Fairmont. Today, she is a successful mother, successful wife, a community volunteer par excellence. And so, ladies and gentlemen, my privilege to present to you Joanne Reese.
Thank you all very much. It is truly an honor to be on stage here tonight, to be among the people who are here. I just want to let everybody know how grateful I am for this opportunity. And there's maybe 5 groups of people that I'd like to thank. First and foremost, Coach Carl and his coaching staff. They were incredibly supportive, motivating, caring, and nobody can succeed without these qualities and people who believe in them. I would like to thank my family who supported me and were there at the track meets, which can be sometimes very long, especially for somebody who did field events at the beginning and would run the last event of the meet. So that was wonderful, and your cheering and your support is very appreciative. I would like to thank my teammates, the upperclassmen when I first started, who were very supportive, as well as my current teammates, especially Kara Hicks, who I was probably one of the more serious athletes, just as far as the type of person I am, and she was one of those people who would help me find balance on the track field, get me laughing when I needed to, so that was wonderful. Again, I'd like to thank the committee who put on such a wonderful weekend for us that helped to prepare us for what was going to happen this weekend, as well as all the time. Sacrifice of time is one of the things that I've learned as an adult is not to be forgotten. We all live busy lives, and for those people that take the time to care for others, it's very important, so thank you all. The other thing I'd like to say is I'm very grateful for the timing of this honor. I needed a reminder that we can't control the competition or the adversity that we face, be it on the track or in other areas of our life. But we can trust in God that the preparations that we have done and the people that have been put in our lives will help us to know that we're in the place we need to be. Finally, I would like to thank the Kettering community, the Kettering Fairmont community, all the people that have been here today, just hearing about what other people have done here at Fairmont, and then the response and the interaction I personally have had this whole weekend. The love and caring and support is a great model for my children that they've been able to see what a wonderful place I grew up in. So I appreciate it all. Thank you very much.
Next, we'd like to recognize our number 160th inductee, Mr. Kenny LaCrone. Kenny graduated from Kettering Fairmont in the class of 2001, and he will join fellow Hall of Fame members from that class, Chris Roth and Bill Lauder. He will be presented by his wrestling coach, Mr. Frank Baxter. Come on up.
Good afternoon. I'm a little hot and sweaty right now. I just came from Beaver Creek. We're actually wrestling. We did lose our last match, probably because I left, I guess. Actually, we were losing a lot worse when I left, and then we made it really close, so maybe I should just resign and let somebody else coach. This may sound odd, but Kenny is a large human being. But I say that, but every time we see each other, I think we hug each other just about every time, except for this time. We'll do that at the end probably. And I think that says a lot about who Kenny is. He's a very special guy. Number one, he started wrestling as a freshman. I'm sure you read that in the program, but to be able to start as a freshman and then take 4th and 2nd in the state of Ohio, arguably the best wrestling state in the country, is quite an accomplishment. Really, I've never heard of it before ever in my life. But I also knew he was special in the fall, my first year here. Kenny was a sophomore at that point. On Fridays after we would lift, we would play a football game just out in the soccer fields there, and just kind of a fun thing to do. And I remember I was the all-time quarterback. I'm not a very good quarterback, obviously, but in that game I actually was okay. But I threw the ball to Kenny. This was my first experience with Kenny, and first of all, he caught it, which not all heavyweights can do. Some of them are a little bit bigger and they can't move. And then Kenny can though, I swear. And then Kenny proceeded to outrun all of the other kids that were chasing him from the wrestling team. And I remember thinking to myself, this is not your typical heavyweight. And over the next 3 years, that's what we saw. We were lucky enough also to have 2 guys coach him, one of which is here. Actually, both of them are here, and I'd like them to stand because these guys were very influential. I may have been the head coach, but these guys were very influential, I think, for Kenny. One is Tony Faust. And the other was Al Manning. He was a special young man coached by special coaches. Actually, in all of his matches at the state tournament, those are the 2 guys that coached him. So they should probably be up here too, but they said they wanted me to do it. Kenny was also, I'm not going to really talk too much about his wrestling. It was great. He was a 2-time state placer. He won the conference. He won the sectional, the district, all those things you can read in the stat books. But he also taught me, even though I was young, I still needed a little seasoning. And believe it or not, some high school kids can do it for you as well. It's not just older sage coaches that can help you. The first thing I want to tell you about is we went to a tournament at North Canton, and I think in the program Kenny mentioned it. And Kenny was in the finals. He was our only guy in the finals. And it's kind of a tradition in wrestling for coaches of the finalists to put on a shirt and tie, make it a special event. And I remember I brought my shirt and tie with me just in case we had a finalist. And we were on the bus, and I said, hey, Kenny, I got to change into my shirt and tie now for the finals. And I remember vividly what he said. He said, Coach, it's just another wrestling match. And as you can see now, we had a competition, and I don't wear a tie now. So I can thank Kenny for that. But the reality is he kind of let me chill out a little bit. And I think at that point in my life as a 23, 24, 25-year-old head coach, I probably needed to chill out a little bit. And that was because of Kenny LeCrone. But he was like that all the time. He would work very hard. He was very diligent. He worked on his craft consistently. But it was never that psycho, intense guy that I thought wrestling had to include. And Kenny, those of you that know him know he's a little bit laid back, but he still got the same results because of his attitude that way. I think if anything, it probably made him less nervous when he went out on the mat. It's just another wrestling match. But before I conclude here, because I don't want to talk too much, I want Kenny to talk a little bit. The biggest thing I can tell you about Kenny is he was the example that our program needed. I came here, we hadn't had a state placer since 1984. We needed someone to show all of the kids from Kettering, Ohio, that they could go out into Columbus and wrestle at the state wrestling tournament and prove that they could be the best too. And Kenny did that. But he wasn't just a model for our wrestlers. He was a model for the students at our school and the teachers. He was just a fantastic young man. And every time he comes into town, as I said, he hugs me because that's how important he is to our program. So it's with my great honor and pleasure that I introduce your newest Hall of Fame inductee, Kenny LeCrone.
Appreciate that. Hello, I think. Hello. I want to thank the Hall of Fame committee on behalf of all of us that are inducted this weekend. It's been pretty awesome getting to see everybody that I haven't seen in years. A lot of the Hall of Famers that I've met are parents of the kids I went to school with, which is awesome. Bill Lauder's back in the back. Never thought I'd see him again, honestly. So it's pretty cool. I want to thank my friends and family that all came from out of town. My brother actually flew back from Austin, Texas to come be here for this. So I want to thank everyone for coming in. Al Manning, Tony Faust, they were my coaches when I was here. Coach Faust was there every day to make sure I don't slack off. And Al Manning was there for when I got cocky and thought I was better than everybody to show me that I wasn't. So it's always good to have around. I want to thank Coach Baxter. He's one of the most influential people that I've had in my life, aside from my mom and my dad, for keeping me interested in the sport. I came in as a freshman. I lost everything. Every time I touched a mat, I just kept losing. I didn't know what I was doing. I showed up my freshman year. I think it was the match before the league tournament, and I finally won. And then I went to the league tournament, and I placed. Then I went to sectionals, and I placed. Then I went to districts. Got my butt kicked, but I learned I could win, finally. And then Coach Baxter came in sophomore year, and I won a lot. And I went to that North Canton tournament, and I won that tournament because Coach Baxter argued with the referee that time ran out at the end of the match instead of the guy going. So that was my first win, finally letting me know that I can do this. And one of the things that I didn't know during that tournament is some of the kids that I was wrestling were kids from other states that were ranked in the state placers, state qualifiers. And like he said, I didn't pay a lot of attention to who I was wrestling. It was just another match. I was going to go out there, wrestle, do what I can. And to come out with a win and then find out I was beating all these kids that were really good wrestlers as a sophomore, it gave me the confidence to keep going. And then junior year, obviously I was successful. And then senior year, we all know what happened senior year. I took second in state because I lost by a move that you learn when you're in kindergarten as a wrestler. So, you're welcome. Wasn't my proudest moment, but I had a good time. But I just want to thank everybody for coming. It's an honor to be a part of the Hall of Fame. I hope to come back in the future ceremonies and continue the tradition that you guys all set forth for us. And I think that's about it. Thanks, Coach.
Don't even think about not coaching anymore, Frank. Our final inductee today is our last number 161, Elizabeth Beth Peyton, Kettering Fairmont grad, and she is the first from the class of 2003. And Beth will be presented by tennis coach, Mr. Rich Moore. Come on up.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everyone, and thanks for braving the wonderful weather we have up here. When I left Charlotte, North Carolina, where I live, day before yesterday, it was beautiful weather, 70, 71, 72. It was great weather. I wish Jim Seawee had not left. Oh, there he is. We haven't given this organization, I think, the proper honor. They have done a fabulous job of putting together this week and this weekend for everyone. And I would appreciate it if all of you who are members of that organization to please stand to be recognized. Thank you. The Hall of Fame is because of you, and thank you again. I bring good wishes from the Queen City of North Carolina. Our groundhog came out, looked around the other day, and could not find his shadow. So we're going to have a spring a little earlier this year. And as I said, our weather, it was 70 when I left. And it was going to be in the high 60s the rest of the week. And however, on that day that I left, on Thursday, it was raining. And the rain continued all the way up here until I got to Ohio. And it changed. Yeah. It turned to snow. Something that I have gladly missed for years now, about 10 or 11 years that I've lived down there. I'm so very, very honored to be here to recognize Dr. Elizabeth Peyton for membership into the Hall of Fame. She is now a doctor, a PhD, not an MD, but a PhD. And I think that's quite an accomplishment. Congratulations again to all of those of you who have been inducted already today, as well as in the past number of years. That's quite an accomplishment. A tennis player gets coaching while during a match. We're allowed to coach on the 90-second that they have to change sides of the net. And that was, at one time, the only time that we were allowed to coach our players that were on the court. And in the off season, our players always had additional coaching from pros in the neighborhood, and we're blessed here in the Dayton area to have 3 or 4 indoor facilities very close. And of course, Beth was no different than the others, and she had a coach in the off season, and it was very difficult to get the attention of a player, even when they had that 90-second changeover. And so we had to think of a way to get their attention. And one of the things that I used was, "How's your big toe?" Huh? And that was always the response, but it got her attention. It got their attention. And we could feed them information then about what we saw that they could change or they needed to do differently than what they were doing while they were in the competition. Now, today, there is something called continuous coaching, and that it happens all of the time now. Even in the 30 seconds that's in between each match, or each point, before they serve, before they get the ball into play, we're allowed to coach now. And it's quite a change. But anyhow, the big toe was very important to us. One of the other things that Beth, if she lost a point or hit a ball differently than she thought it should have been hit, and lost a point, she would smack her, well, excuse me, not with my right, she was a left-handed. She would smack the back of her ankle or the back of her calf or her foot, and you could hear it reverberating all over the court. And I was always very amazed at the end of a match that she was able to walk off the court. Walk! And she didn't have bruises on her legs or her foot. And but she always was able to get off the court and go to the net and shake hands. But congratulations, Elizabeth, for making this honor. And I wish you well. Thank you. And you have the flag. Okay. All right, your turn.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Moore, and thank you to the Hall of Fame committee. This is a very unexpected and humbling honor. I'm just thrilled to have had a really amazing time this weekend, just connecting with people that I haven't talked to in years and getting to reflect on my high school experience. It's just, it's funny because as an athlete, you're always so focused on the next goal and trying to do, what's next and trying to move forward that you don't often, at least I didn't take that time to really reflect on what I had done and accomplished. And so when Bill Lauder called to tell me that I was had been nominated and being inducted into the Hall of Fame, I was pleasantly surprised to find out that other people were paying attention. And and I think about my high school career and really what it meant to me. And it's, when you're an athlete, I feel like you have this irony where you're supposed to be, or you need to be fully engrossed and invested in a process, but at the same time retaining detachment from any individual outcome. And sometimes it's hard when you're part of an individual sport like tennis to maintain that perspective. And so what high school tennis really meant to me was it allowed me to really enjoy the whole process of tennis and be a part of a team and something bigger than myself and bigger than any one individual result. And so the things that I remember most are, not necessarily wins or losses, but they're traveling with the team on the bus, to a bunch of different home matches or away matches, and having the pasta dinners the night before sectionals, and meeting at 6 a.m. at the Golden Nugget before sectionals to, have pancakes before you run around on a court. And so I just really want to thank my coaches and that support system that I had, my team, for making that experience so memorable. And I'd like to really, a special thanks to Mr. Moore for coming all this way in the snow. And, funny thing about Mr. Moore is I think he was really helpful. He mentioned the big toe comment, which I still remember to this day. But he did such a great job of, again, taking me out of this, this perspective, and I would just get so, intense into the moment. And I still remember my sophomore year having this horrible loss. I was in the match that would, if I would have won, I would have qualified for state, but I lost in this tight match. And Mr. Moore walking me around Princeton High School in the parking lot, kicking rocks, small ones, not big ones, because you got to protect the big toe. And just walking many, many laps around, calming me down, trying to get me to, focus on the idea that this was not the end of the world and there would be many more matches to come. And so having that support system around was amazing, because without that, I wouldn't have had all of the wins. I probably would have had a lot of losses, because I can do that on my own, I found. But the wins, you need a team. And so I want to thank my Mr. Vogley, too. He's not here. He's in Florida. He might be smarter than all of us. But he's just, Tim was just always a pillar of integrity and always pushing me to be my best self on the court. And so he did an amazing job with the women's team. And my teammates, especially Libby Harrison, we teamed up and had a really wonderful end of the year play my senior year, and my parents, because I know, or at least I understand now, how difficult it can be to have a student athlete and how much time and investment it took from you, and just, thank you for your support. And also my brother David, he is a tennis player, and I know I drug him out on the tennis court way too many times, I think, to help me practice. And my husband and my son Teddy, who's 2, you were, not around in high school, but are so important to me now, and really helpful in having me here today. So just thank you so much to the Kettering community, and again, I'm honored to be inducted. So thank you so much.
Congratulations again to our newest inductees this year, Beth, Joanne, Kenny, Marty, and Gary Byrnes. Another round of applause. You remember those characteristics and traits? You think all 5 of those folks had those in spades? I think they did. Folks, we're drawing to near the end of our ceremony, but I want to remind everybody that there will be picture opportunities here on stage after the pinning ceremony, and there's still food in the lobby. We don't want to take any of that home. And also, don't forget to take the time to nominate somebody. We try our best, but we truly need your help, so please do that. Also, please feel free to stay as long as you like afterwards. Enjoy the food, enjoy the company, and maybe most importantly, enjoy the memories. One of the great Hall of Fame traditions is our annual special pinning ceremony, which we close the induction, each year. And to orchestrate that pinning ceremony, I'd like to call upon Hall of Fame member, Mr. Rusty Clifford.
All right, for those Hall of Fame members that have been here before, we know that at this point, I'm going to ask Hall of Fame member Tim Arlen to put our chairs out here. And I'm going to ask all of the Hall of Fame members that are currently here to start down this aisle and form a semicircle back here in the back. And I'll ask Diana Roberts to come up, and if she'll join me. And I'm going to call our Hall of Fame inductees up one at a time. And if you'll come up, and then Diana will officially put your pin on your lapel. Wait. Didn't we, Tim, did we ask for all of the Hall of Fame members? We know a bunch of them are here, right? But Tim's not the only one that's going to welcome anybody in. Come on. Down that aisle, up the steps, over here. We know the drill. Yes, you got it. Right. We're going to hit it soon. Right. Good. And then our Hall of Fame inductees will come down here, and Diana will put the pin on you, and then you will be able to shake hands with each of our Hall of Fame members that are here with us today, and then if you would take a seat up front, and then we'll up the lights, and we'll all gather behind you, and have opportunity for some pictures then. Okay, we are going to start with Hall of Fame member, Coach Marty Hart Sinkhorn. Joanne Reese. Kenny LaCrone. And Beth Payton. Okay, Hall of Fame members, if you would gather around for a group picture, please. If you can't see the photographer, they cannot see you. That officially ends our ceremony this afternoon. As Bill mentioned, please stay as long as you would like with refreshments. And if you'd like to come up and take a photo opportunity up here, that's also available. Thank you.